Hi, everyone. I'm Rena Jadov, the founder of Health Boot Camps, 14 Days to Helping You Unleash Better Health, as well as the host of Live Longer podcast. And today we are talking about the ticker. Why? Because it is still the #1 cause of death in the US for both men and women. And here to tell us that that doesn't need to be the case is Dr. Jack Wolfson. Hi, Dr. Jack. Welcome.
Rena, it's a pleasure to be on with you. Very excited to talk about this information.
So a little bit about Dr. Jack. He's amazing. He is a board certified cardiologist who uses nutrition and supplements to heal, a man after my own heart. And in fact, he, along with his wife, run a wonderful website and clinic called the Doctors Wolfson. We're, of course, going to put this in the show notes. And you will have a chance to, oh, there, you're going to show us the book. And he is the author of The PALEO Cardiologist. That's what we're going to talk about today. Dr. Jack, let's get started with a really basic question, which I am still baffled at, which is, why is heart disease still the #1 killer of Americans? What are we doing wrong?
Well, it's real simple. We're not going after the cause. As a cardiologist, and I spent so much of my career just pushing pharmaceuticals, statin drugs, aspirin, blood pressure drugs, heart rhythm drugs, doing procedures, angiograms, stress tests, pacemakers, sending people to bypass surgery. And not once do we ever talk about why. Do we ever address the cause? And that just goes to medical school, 3 years of internal medicine, 3 years of cardiology training. We never discuss those things. It's all about what pill, what procedure can we do. That's all we know. And then at the end of the day, that's also how medicine really is financially driven. So doctors make more money when they order more tests as well, and they see a lot of patients. And as you know, it takes a lot longer to explain to them the healthy lifestyle as opposed to, here, take this pill. That can be done very quickly, and that's how you make a lot more money. So doctors need to start addressing the cause of why people have health issues, and they need to take a very strong approach towards prevention.
You know, there was a myth of who gets a heart attack, right? So it must be someone eating a lot of eggs, must be someone really obese, someone out of shape, maybe a smoker. And I have a story to share. We were at a party this last weekend, and I ran into a friend who told me that her husband had had a heart attack. Now, if you look at her husband, he's very skinny, very fit looking, tall. There's no way you would ever assume that someone like him would have a heart attack. So let's talk a little bit about what are we missing in terms of the profile of someone who ends up with a heart attack. And then we're going to, of course, talk about what does it take to prevent this.
Well, I think there's so many factors, obviously, that go into it. And like you said, some of the things that are obvious, obesity, smoking, poor lifestyle choices, and obviously you related in high blood pressure and stuff like that. Those are the obvious things. And the more things you stack up, the more those people will, have a higher likelihood of having an event. But the world is full of people like you just described. And I've seen thousands of cases like that where the person looks amazing outside, but on the inside, they are rotting. And a lot of times you don't know that. You don't know that unless you go see a doctor to do advanced testing to really be able to show to people, hey, you've got some massive problems going on here. We need to address all of those. But the classic guy, take a look at recently, this guy, Bob Harper from, Biggest Loser. Anybody would look at that guy and say, wow, he's totally fit. He's in great shape and he follows this great diet. But listen, Bob Harper, I don't know his stress level. I don't know if he got adequate sleep. Living in New York, I don't think he got adequate sunshine, that's for sure. He's covered in tattoos, and tattoos are all artificial, chemicals and dyes and heavy metals. I don't know, once again, the stress level that cardiologists never discuss. I have a whole chapter in my book about stress, and the chapter is called One Nation Under Prozac. And the answer is, it's not a Prozac deficiency. We're under stress. We've got, stress, anger, anxiety, depression. It's all in the medical literature. And the cardiologists don't care. They don't read it.
Yeah. And it's not just the cardiologist. Your primary care doesn't care. So,
no.
You would hope that if you went to for your annual checkup that your doctor would sit down and say, so let's talk about your wellness plan. But really it isn't like that. And so I think that's where the emergence of functional medicine has come up. But let's talk about what are the factors. So you've already mentioned a few. You've mentioned stress, sleep. What else? Toxins, environmental toxins. And are these equally to blame? Or is there a proportion difference in terms of, where does it all stack out?
Well, I think that, I guess the easy answer is to say that they are equally to blame. And science really doesn't tell us that this contributes this amount of risk and this amount. But, fundamentally, the things that I talk about in my book, and I talk about from the stage, and I talk about here, and to anyone that'll listen, is basically eating the right foods. And to me, no matter what diet you're on, make it organic. So if you're vegan, you're vegetarian, your South Beach diet, your paleo, your keto, just make it organic foods. And that's a good start. Just get all the chemical poison out of your diet. And that will create tremendous resolution in your health symptoms right from there. I'm 100% gluten-free. I do a very advanced test from a company, if I may say, online, is Vibrant America. They're based actually in San Francisco. They use microchip technology. They're looking at leaky gut, and leaky gut is something that if you're out there, Google it, become familiar with it. I got 10 blogs on it, and I talk about it in my book. Yet when I heard about it from my wife, who's a doctor of chiropractic, who got me all natural, I never heard about leaky gut in my life, and medical doctors still blow it off. But once you give people, Rena, right, you give them the piece of paper that says, congratulations, you have leaky gut. Congratulations, you have 15 different antibodies that are spiking as an autoimmune condition to gluten. We've got a problem. And I'm telling you right now, Rena, and I know you know this, given your background, coronary artery disease is autoimmune.
That's right.
Hypertension is autoimmune. Atrial fibrillation is autoimmune. So we talk about diet, we talk about sunshine. Our ancestors went to sleep with the sun down, which nobody does. Yes. They awoke with the sunrise, which people do because they can't sleep well. And then they spent the day in and out of the sun, and they were naked.
Yes.
They were naked in the sun. And that's why 3/4 of my patients, I'm down here in Arizona, 3/4 of the people that come see me are from other states. And they're coming from Seattle, they're coming from Portland, they're coming from Canada, they're coming from Minnesota, they're coming from upstate New York. They're coming from cold weather climates where people are not getting sunshine. And if you don't get sunshine, you're in real trouble. So, and then you mentioned the environmental toxins, of course. I just tell my patients quite simply, everything you bring into your house, is it toxic or not? If you don't know, don't bring it in. Laundry detergent, fabric softener, dryer sheets, colognes, perfumes, candles, new furniture, new flooring, you name it. These are all poisons. And if you doubt me, I've got 300 references in my book to the medical doctors and the PhDs who wrote the original literature. It's all there for anybody to see. If you want answers, they're out there. You know that.
How much sun do we need? People get very interested in sort of, well, I get sun, when I'm driving, there's sun kind of coming right into me. And as I'm walking from my car to my office, there's sun. How much sun do we actually need?
All I can tell you, obviously, is quite simply, our ancestors were always naked in the sun. You're never naked in the sun.
Right.
Always, never.
Right.
And it's, the literature is very clear that people with the highest levels of vitamin D, as you know, have the lowest risk of everything. And this is not about vitamin D in a supplement bottle, because that's not going to do the job. That's right. Not even close.
That's right.
But, so I tell people, when people say, well, what do I do? I live in, I live in San Francisco, and it's kind of sunny here, but it's chilly, and I don't know, I never go outside. What do I tell people? Move. If you live in one of these climates, move. If you can't move, take a lot of vacations. If you can't take a lot of vacations, take vitamin D and vitamin K and hope for the best, but it's a crapshoot. You're in trouble. I've seen so many people, like I said, Alaska, Montana. It's a problem when you don't get the sun. And I could, you and I could talk about sunshine and all the benefits so much more than vitamin D. I could talk about it for hours.
Yes.
But the short, you don't have to understand the science, just understand that you need to get sun. When I spoke the truth about cancer in front of, 3,000 people and tens of thousands of people worldwide, I, put up my slide about 17 different cancers that are reduced from sun exposure. So once again, finally, the highest level of vitamin D, lowest risk, the highest amount of sun exposure, lower the lowest cholesterol levels and the lowest your cardiac risk. And once again, it just makes common sense. We've been in the sun forever.
And better the sleep. So I'll share my example. I had the 28 crazy symptoms, and those of you who've watched my videos are probably familiar with those, but I had all kinds of insane symptoms. And of course, I did do pretty dramatic changes to my lifestyle, but one of the first big ones was the sun. And Dr. Jack, I have to tell you, within 2 days of me just going out for a 1.5 hour, 2 hour walk in the sun, that's how I started. I would just kind of do this 2 hour circuit and walk gently, slowly. So I wasn't trying to get fit. It was just a matter of getting sun, and I'd make sure that I was sort of pretty naked, as you put it. I started sleeping so well. And it was mind-boggling, sort of this deep, peaceful sleep where I would wake up refreshed, and I hadn't had that before.
Well, obviously what the sun does is just, it primes the pineal gland and make a lot of melatonin, and that's really what's super important. But, the amount of breast cancer, colon cancer, thyroid cancer, ovarian, testicular. I mean, how many men out there are getting their testicles in the sun?
That's right.
I don't have data that says, oh, well, the people that get their testicles in the sun have a lower risk. I know that what makes common sense, and it's real simple. Sunburn is bad. So, when you were going on spring break from Harvard and you were going down to, South Beach or Cancun and got fried, that was bad.
Yes.
Sunshine is good.
And that's where I think a lot of the pushback comes, and that's why I asked you how much, because I often get that pushback. Well, wait a minute, I thought there's skin cancer, and I thought we shouldn't be in the sun. And the reason I want to spend some quality time talking about it is because it is critical. It should be number one on the list of to-dos. And you're not confirming even for heart, it's the top thing to do. And that we shouldn't worry about constantly being sunscreen, because if you put your sunscreen, you can't get the sun, right?
Most certainly. If you're going to be out in the sun all day long, fine. Go ahead and put on some organic sunscreen. So it comes with zinc oxide, and then it's in organic jojoba oil and hemp seed oil and coconut oil. I've got no problem with that. If you're going to be out in the sun and you're worried about it, okay, fine, do a little bit of cover up, but embrace that sunshine as being so important. The sun enters right in through the eyes. That's why I've not worn sunglasses in 6 years, and my vision is totally perfect, but I never wear glasses. And I encourage people, once again, don't wear sunglasses. Let the energy of the sun come into those cameras called the eyeballs, right in back to the back of the eye is called the retina. And the retina fires back into the brain, cycles up and down the cervical spine, back to the pineal gland where we make melatonin. And if the sun is not coming in through those eyeballs, you're in trouble. I also, would say that, along the same token, the artificial light, especially after sundown, destroys melatonin. So that's where you're going to bed with the sun down. If not, you're wearing, everybody's talking these days about, blue light protection and blue light glasses, and those are available for $10 on Amazon. There's really so much, the sun hits the skin and cranks up levels of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the body's main vasodilator. Lowers inflammation, lower oxidative stress, natural blood flow, increases parasympathetic tone, does so many things, from the sun. The sunshine, so I think there's benefit to the sunshine coming right in to my heart.
Yes.
And energizing the heart.
Yes.
I do. And it's just, we evolved with the sun. And the sun is free, right? If people are like listening to us, like, oh, I can't afford to eat organic food, and I can't afford, I can't afford this and that. You can afford sunshine, and you can afford to go to sleep on time. Rena, we're giving people the answers. What people do with the answers is up to them, but they're answers.
The problem so far has been that the sun doesn't have a great PR agency because no one's making money off of the free sun. So that's where you and I come in, right? I think we're going to become the PR team for sun and for some of the natural things that are out there that heal stress.
Can I say one more thing too? Yeah. Is that the catcher's mitt in the back of the eye is called the retina, and the retina is responsible for converting, the electrical energy coming in from the sun and from lights, and it converts that into chemical energy. So to send messages back up into the brain and up and down. The brain controls, of course, every single cell in the body. The number one thing that is loaded in the back of the eye is DHA. DHA is a polyunsaturated fatty acid. We know it, I guess, as basically fish oil would be the most common term. The number one place where the omega-3 DHA, quote unquote, fish oil is located is in the back of the eye, because the DHA is part of the catcher's mitt that catches that sun and turns it into chemical energy. And that's why it's so important to eat high quality seafood as part of their diet. And I would encourage anyone who's a vegan out there. I love animals. I mean, my wife is like #1 animal lover. We donate so much money to animal charities that do it the right way. And we've got tons of rescue dogs and all these different things. Why can't a vegan eat an oyster?
Right.
Like, does an oyster have any more or less feelings than a head of cabbage? I don't know. It's not my specialty.
Right.
And like the pain threshold of an oyster, I can only tell you that the people that eat seafood, it's very clear they live the longest and the best.
Yeah, there was a lot of research that came out of the longevity study, the Blue Zone study as well, that talked about the folks that, Japan, I think, was one of those where people that ate fish, but it was clean, pure fish. And Dr. Jack, now we are dealing with pollution there as well. So that's a whole different can of worms. I'm going to come back to sun. And before we get into stress, I want to say one more thing. One of the things I hear over and over again is, hey, what about vitamin D liquid? What about the supplement? And I heard you say this, and I have personally experienced this as well. It's not the same. Am I right?
No, it's different, and it's different. It'll raise levels. You can raise your vitamin D levels, of course, with supplementation, but it's not the same. You have to get it from the sunshine. Listen, if it's wintertime, where you live and you've got no alternative, then vitamin D supplements, certainly in high dose. I always recommend vitamin D with vitamin K, because vitamin D, what it does is it obviously causes a lot of calcium retention in the body. And if you don't take that calcium and store it into the bones, it'll go into the arteries. That's very clear. So if you're going to take a vitamin D, you got to also take vitamin K. I'm not a big fan of combo products. I recommend taking them separately. And then that takes me to my next, stream of consciousness thought here, right? Where we just get rolling with this stuff. But the only time I've had soy personally in 10 years is natto, fermented soybeans that you have to make sure you get them that say, GMO free and preferably organic. I'm loving some fermented natto. It's absolutely delicious. And back to that point is that it is by far and away, nothing's even close, not even organ meats. And I'm a huge fan of free range grass-fed organ meats. Nothing is close to natto as far as vitamin K2. And vitamin K2 takes that calcium, tacks it up in the bones, and prevents it from going into the arteries, and will actually reverse coronary artery disease.
Wow, these are actually two really good hacks, getting the vitamin K in to make sure that you're not creating more trouble by taking your vitamin D. And of course, secondly, getting that natto in. I actually toss it into smoothies and stuff. There's so much you can do with it, by the way.
You toss, you toss natto into smoothies.
I sure do.
Wow.
I toss a whole bunch of things into my smoothies these days, and I just gulp it down,
Well, I will say this too, is that I like smoothies as well, and we do a lot of greens powders. I'll give myself another shameless plug here. Here's our personal organic, greens powder. No stevia, no flavors, it's 100% food in this bottle.
Oh, cool.
And I like smoothies, but I want people to enjoy their smoothies. I don't like when people come in and they're like, I took your triple greens combo, with the beetroot powder, and I added in this, and I added in, like a raw egg, and I choked it down. I'm like,
that's like me.
That doesn't help stress level. That doesn't help enjoyment. As obviously we should all be blessing our food, and I'm not like that kind of spiritual, but we should be enjoying things as they come, as we're doing it. So.
Okay, I'll try enjoying my.
Great.
I'll stop throwing stuff like spirulina and natto into my smoothies and try to enjoy.
Spirulina, I think, plays nicely. I love spirulina, by the way, as far as cholesterol is concerned. For those people that want to get off their cholesterol drugs, spirulina in 7 randomized clinical trials has proven to lower total cholesterol down by 47 points.
Wow.
The amount of times I prescribe statin drugs in my practice is zero. I get people off of statin drugs. They're
Wow.
poison. They're a cover-up. They're artificial. They've got the side effects. According to their literature, if there is benefit, the benefit is tiny. What you and I are talking about is not lowering your risk of a heart attack from here to here. It's lowering it down to zero, and we know they cannot do that.
That's right. Let's talk about more food items like spirulina that actually make a huge difference. What else do you like to prescribe, and what percentages can people achieve by taking these products?
Well, I'm a big fan of beetroot, and we sell a product on our website. And I'm sorry for the shameless push, but whatever. I'm not a good salesman, or I'm a doctor, and doctors are terrible at
Yes.
everything except for prescribing pills. Beetroot is another tremendous source, and our product contains the beetroot, the red, and then also the beet greens, and it's all organic, no stevia, no fillers, no artificials, obviously nothing like that. And once again, that beetroot is one of the highest sources of nitrate, NO3, which gets converted by the oral bacteria, which nobody has because of Crest toothpaste and so on and so forth. And then in the acidic stomach, which nobody has because of chlorine and fluoride, and everyone's taken their acid blockers and stuff like
That's
that.
right.
In the acidic stomach, you turn it into nitric oxide, and nitric oxide does this, opens up the blood vessels, does so many amazing things. And people need to get it. They can certainly get it from eating beets and beet greens and arugula and spinach and other sources, but it's really medicinal when you do it as a powder into your smoothie. And finally, beetroot is nature's Viagra. So for any men that are listening to this, the beetroot is the boner juice. There is literature that beetroot juice increases blood flow to the female clitoris. So it helps with female boners as well.
Okay, so forget that glass of wine, that shared glass of wine, make it a shared glass of beetroot juice.
Yeah, as much as I love the taste of alcohol, I don't think alcohol is very healthy. And for those people that that are drinking 2-3 glasses of red wine a day, and by the way, that red wine, unless it's organic, it's all soaked with glyphosate and other pesticides. I think alcohol is kind of like, let's have a drink on Friday night, maybe one on Saturday night. I think that's about it.
That's a really good point. So you've given us some amazing food hacks at this point. So between the beetroot juice, etc., what else do you recommend? So we've talked about sun, we've talked about some great food hacks. What about stress? Because as I understand, there have been some studies where they found that you could actually get away with a poor diet, even relatively bad sleep habits, as long as your stress level was down to nothing. So stress is a big contributor, I think, to a lot of our issues, especially heart. What have you seen work to get people's stress levels down?
Well, I think that, first of all, is that poor nutrition contributes to stress. And then when you're under stress, you go back to poor nutrition, right? If you're stressed out, or there's a relationship issue or financial issues or work-related issues, family, if there's something like that going on, you're not looking for a beet greens drink, right? You're looking for a hot fudge sundae. You're not looking for a broccoli salad. So that spiral makes everything worse. But quite clearly, I'm a huge fan. And then also, nutritional deficiencies, right? So if you want to do, get them on the right supplements. There's a ton of supplements in the stress control space. B vitamins, omega-3. The higher the levels of omega-3, the lower levels of stress that someone's going to have. So you give the body all the tools it needs to get the job done. We're always going to have some degree of stress. If you can get it out of your life, do it. Heck, I left the biggest cardiology group in the state of Arizona. Talk about stressful. To do so and risky to do so, but it's the age-old story. I wish I did it 5 years earlier. And then as far as stress is concerned, yoga, meditation, tai chi, physical activity, going for a walk, like you said, a bike ride, a hike. There's so many different ways, go on vacation, get a massage, do, hire a chef to come into your house, for the people that, that can afford it. I'll tell you, you can find someone to come into your house and prepare food for you on Sunday night, and they can prepare food for you for the entire week. So there's no more excuses about you didn't have food, you didn't have time. they go in, they prepare the food on Sunday night, they make you a big salad, they make you, cut up all the vegetables, they get everything prepared for you. You're a very successful business person, consultant, whatever you do. Have, Tim Ferriss, 4-hour work week, turf it off on somebody else to let them do it. And stay healthy. When I used to work in the hospitals, I used to walk around with a can of sardines and an avocado. Wow. And that's, I have patients that drive a truck for a living, for example, and it's like, hey, you got to be prepared. So prepare yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about your book, The Paleocardiologist. What prompted you to write it? And what's the core message you want to get out?
The core message is that the tagline is there's a natural way to heart health, and it's not the pills, it's not the procedures, they don't work. The answer is true prevention, and I outline all the reasons why, and I give you a plan to make it all successful. And I wrote that so people all around the world would have something to hold in their hands where they can read and refer back to, and it's done phenomenal on my website, on Amazon, anytime I go speak, obviously. The way I speak is very different, of course, than just about every other cardiologist. So it makes it very unique. And also it just, I guess in some way it's kind of like, to rub it in the face of my old practice partners who would never listen to me, had no interest in what I was saying. What I have to say is bad for business, therefore don't say it or get out. And eventually I got it out and I wrote the book. And like I said, it's been absolutely incredible. So people all around the world, if they can't afford to fly out to Arizona or it's not possible, hey, read my book and you'll just get so much information.
Why paleo? So we've got the whole keto craze right now. The paleo craze was pretty big prior. What do you think about paleo versus keto versus vegan? What is the right diet for heart health?
Well, I think obviously you can have 50 different guests and we'll all sit there and debate. And I know who all the big vegan players are. I only go by this. Eat the foods that our ancestors ate for millions of years. It worked for them. It'll work for us. What the animals eat. All animals eat either other animals or they eat insects. Keto, I think, is fine for a cleanse. Frankly, there's some pretty decent data on cardiac parameters, what happens to blood pressure, inflammation, oxidative stress. When you follow those keto people for up to 6 months, it's pretty good. But once again, why try and reinvent the wheel, right? We're not telling people, hey, go on the helium diet because breathing helium is better than oxygen. I just discovered. It's not. We breathe air. We eat paleo foods. My book has a paleo foundation, and the foundation is, of course, is tons of vegetables. I love vegetables, but I also understand the value of eating free-range grass-fed meat, trying to get those organs into the diet, eating wild seafood, sardine, anchovy, wild salmon, shellfish. I don't eat tuna or other big fish like, for example, like I guess would be like shark or, swordfish or something like that. They're just too toxic for most people. Yeah. And fundamentally, I test people. When people are eating wild salmon, sardine, anchovy, shellfish, they're not showing up with levels of toxins. And let me say this, the whole world is polluted. It's fatalistic. It's sad, nihilistic to say. But, polar bears have over 300 chemicals that are found in their blood. So, you do the best you can, but the value of eating seafood cannot be, stressed enough.
What are your favorite foods that are paleo friendly? Or what do you love for heart health?
Well, I love eating eggs. It's so contrary to what, so many people say, but eggs are just like an absolute phenomenal food. And eggs are a cocoon for a baby chicken. That's how a chicken comes to life. You can't raise a chicken on oatmeal. So think about all the nutrients, all the brain boosters that are in there. And I write tons of blog posts on that. I'm also a big fan of spices. Spices are so medicinal. You open up your spice drawer and you just dump those little Nature's Pharmacy with an F. You dump that into your food, whether it's eggs or into your salads or your salad dressing. That's where a lot of the pharmaceuticals came from, was from the spice industry, right? They took oregano and they fed it to a hypertensive lab rat, and they found that their blood pressure went down. So what is it so unique about oregano? And they pulled out all these different particles of it. And they found what worked, and then they put a patent on it, and $100 billion later, there you have it. But other paleo foods that I like, wow, I mean, there's so many. I mean, obviously, I eat a lot of avocado. I eat a lot.
Tell us a little bit about your diet. What's your breakfast? What's your lunch? What's your dinner?
I guess that's easy enough. I mean, but I do, so breakfast is always a greens drink. And then after that, maybe a handful of walnuts, maybe it's a protein powder, or, some kind of nut and seed. Maybe on the weekends, it's eggs and salmon or eggs and bacon. Obviously, well, like I said, everything's organic, everything's free range, everything's the best of the best quality. Occasionally, we'll do gluten-free pancakes. We'll do, gluten-free French toast, things like that. And then for lunch, typically it's a big salad, avocado, maybe a can of sardines, nuts, seeds. Dinner, maybe more of the same. Lots of vegetables, 2/3 raw, 1/3 steamed or cooked in some way. And that's kind of how we roll. Lots of spices, high quality water. I'll give you another hack. My favorite water is Pellegrino. I drink a lot of high quality water, from our filtration system in the house, but Pellegrino is the single highest water source of sulfur. And sulfur is what makes garlic and onions so amazing, and also makes eggs so amazing because of the sulfur and the amino acids that are in there. And Pellegrino has a lot of sulfur as well, and sulfur makes glutathione, and glutathione is the main antioxidant in the body. I test people's glutathione levels in their blood, inside of their cells. 2/3 of people have glutathione levels in the toilet. It's a problem.
Let's talk testing for a moment. What are your favorite tests? What tests do you do to find out what someone's heart health is like?
I love tests. Let me say this, and I talk about this in the book. Anyone who tries to offer you a CT scan under the purveyance of health, run from them. You do not need a coronary calcium score. Coronary, calcium scores, radiation causes heart disease, causes cancer, causes brain damage. Don't do it. Let's just assume we do, and let's deal with it. Get the blood test that you need. Get the leaky gut panel. Get the micronutrients, intracellular vitamins, minerals, heavy metals, advanced lipids, advanced markers of inflammation, oxidative stress, advanced thyroid, autoimmune panels. Get it. Get all that information and see where you're at. And then you go on the plan. And then 90 days later, we repeat the tests that need to be repeated. Yes. And I'm telling you, Rena, I'm staring right at you right now with my eyes wide open. When you follow the plan, you get the results every single time. And it's a beautiful thing. So, but once again, most doctors, I mean, heck, most cardiologists, they don't even care about even ordering simple cholesterol levels because they know they're going to recommend statins anyways. Yeah. The American College of Cardiology, of which I'm a part of, and a fellow of the American College of Cardiology, their main position really is in a lot of situations, they don't even order it. Just put people on statin drugs.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's so sad.
There's a whole thing about putting people prophylactically now, right? They changed the ranges. So the ranges became tighter, which means now you can actually prescribe more drugs to more people.
Go find a natural doctor, right? You've seen all the natural people. There's so many natural people that are out there, and there's more and more coming. The old conventional, Marcus Welby type of, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning because that's what I said. My way or the highway, that is gone. That is gone. Your friends invented the internet. And the internet is the place where you find the information. And they're like, oh, Reno, what do you know? What do you, Dr. Google? And you're like, yeah, Google took me to the original scientific literature. That's where it took me. And I read it. Have you read it? And they haven't. Go find a natural doctor to order these tests on you. And that's the answer.
What's this 2 aspirin deal? Is aspirin good anymore or not? Because I've heard again conflicting information about aspirin. Should people take aspirin?
I'm totally against aspirin. The evidence on aspirin is so flimsy. According to the American College of Cardiology, any healthy 65-year-old woman and under, aspirin is contraindicated, meaning like you're not supposed to take aspirin.
Wow.
So if you're taking it for headache and stuff like that, that's the difference, and not, which I don't believe in. To me, there's a natural cure for everything.
I agree.
That being said, aspirin is another pharmaceutical, causes gastrointestinal bleeding, it's poison, and the cardiac benefits. I'll stick with beetroot powder, which is a natural antiplatelet instead of taking a pharmaceutical that's going to give me an ulcer or kidney disease or whatever it may be.
That makes sense. Last question, intermittent fasting. What are your thoughts on that? Does it work? Do you recommend
I like intermittent fasting. I think it's a total craze. I think there's definitely value to it. I think there's good scientific literature about it as well, certainly from a cardiovascular standpoint, what it does. Me personally, the way that I intermittent fast, I try once a week. It's a little, it's not easy, right? Because we all have stressors and stuff, and I've got, I've got 3 kids, including a 4-month-old, and it's a
Yeah.
little difficult. I get a little cranky towards the end of my fast, and my wife's like, why don't you just eat something already? But what I do is, Rena, is that Saturday night is my last meal, and then I eat nothing Sunday, all Sunday night. And I'm drinking tons of water in that time, trying to kind of relax as much as possible. You don't want to do any kind of heavy activity. And then Monday morning, I break it with a greens drink. So that's a 36-hour fast. I think that's a great way to go. If you do a water fast, juice fast, to me, the best thing about fasting is that when you're done with the fast, you're not craving ice cream. You're craving an avocado.
Very
you're
true.
craving a salad, right? So
Or nuts. I crave nuts.
or nuts.
Very
Definitely.
true. Very true. And you do, the first couple ones are really hard, and I don't do 36. The longest I've gone is 24. But you do feel
Start slow. I agree with you. Start slow, see what your body can handle, skip a meal. Rena, my favorite meal to skip would be dinner, because dinner is usually where you just got to sit down after the day and you're just like shoveling in tons of food. And then go to bed. It's like, you know what? I like to start off the day with some form of breakfast. I feel good working when I have lunch in my belly, and then I can go home and skip the dinner.
That's great advice. All right. So for those who are listening to this, inspired by you, how can they connect with you? Do you offer telemedicine at this point, Skype consults?
Well, we come to the website, thedoctorswolfson.com, and doctors is abbreviated DRS. You can follow us on social media, get a copy of the book. The way it works right now is that, Rena, you could give health advice to anybody around the world, including in the U.S. For the medical doctors, we can't, so it's, if I was giving medical advice to someone in the Bay Area, for example, that would be construed as practicing in California without a license. So California, if they found out, would come after me. Hopefully the future does entail the ability for me to speak to someone in California that doesn't come out. But, because there's no doubt I can provide tremendous value to people. Out of country, I can do whatever I want. So I do Skype calls with people in, Korea and Abu Dhabi and, England, Norway, all over the place. So, but otherwise, listen, come out to Arizona. It's a beautiful place in Arizona. I've got an amazing nurse practitioner. I got health coaches. I got a great setup. But listen, if that doesn't work out, all the information is in my book. It's just the testing is done here in office. And I got lots of videos and YouTubes and, more stuff coming. I'm gonna release a podcast, the Healthy Heart Show. So stay tuned for that as well.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Jack. Really appreciate it. And for the rest of you, pick up the book. Follow the simple plan. It's totally reversible. You can be someone who stays healthy and is not a statistic of heart disease. Stay smiling. I'll see you on another one of these.